Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's another sit down video for you today. As you can see by the title of the video, we're going to be talking about Ramadan. I've had loads of questions about Ramadan recently. Maybe there's a lot of you planning a holiday this year, maybe, that's my guess, because I've had so many messages just about what Dubai is like, what the UAE is like during Ramadan, what you can do. I'm here to clear it up. I hope this lighting's okay. Is it bright enough? Look at that lovely sunny day behind me. Oh my goodness. Wherever you're watching this in the world. Are you jealous? Sorry, that was such a dickhead thing to say. Anyway, back to the video. So we're going to be talking about Ramadan today, and if maybe some of you are like me, I'll be really honest, I grew up in York in England, and I really did not have an experience of what Ramadan was before I moved to the UAE. For those of you that don't know, it is a religious time of year for Muslims where they fast for 30 days, and it is one of the 5 pillars of Islam, so it's really, really important. It is a holy time, so I think because, you know, wherever you're watching this from in the world, there's probably a variety of religions around you, and, you know, nobody can know everything. So, you know, if you're anything like I was, you probably just don't really know, or you're here clicking on this video because maybe you do think you want to book a holiday soon, and, you know, you don't know if it'll impact your experience, or maybe you're just curious, maybe you're just nosy, maybe you are moving to the UAE and you want to get a little bit more information about what it's like for residents during that time of year. Anyway, if that is you, then please keep watching. So during Ramadan, Muslims aren't to eat or drink water during daylight hours. So they will break their fast at the end of the day with something called an Iftar, which is a celebration meal to break the fast with, and then they'll also have maybe a suhoor in the early hours of the morning. So with this in mind, the rules are that you cannot eat and drink in public in daylight hours during the month of Ramadan, and that is the law. It is, you know, an enforced law here for residents, you know, even if you're not fasting. And I think reading that or hearing about that does kind of throw people off, and they're not really sure, you know, what does in public mean, you know. It's also advised to not have kind of public displays of affection, wear revealing clothing, swearing is, you know, not really respectful during this time. So all of these things kind of float around the internet and around your research, and I'm sure it's left a lot of potential tourists wondering where they stand with this. So let's clear some things up. And I made some notes, so I'm ready for the video. So we've touched very, very briefly on what Ramadan is, but because I'm not Muslim, I don't feel like it's right for me to explain too in detail what Ramadan actually is. But what I can do, and what I hope to help you with today, is understand a little bit more about what Ramadan means as an expat here or as a tourist here in the UAE. For those of you that don't know, my name's Mabel, and I've lived here in the UAE for nearly 4 years. Can you believe it? 4 years! Wow, time flies. For those of you that are planning their holiday and you want to know when Ramadan might be, it's predicted that it will fall to begin on the evening of Saturday, the 2nd of April 2022. This is confirmed, I think, the evening before, and it's all based off of the position of the moon. That's why it says dates may vary when you type it into Google. So with this in mind, I think that is the very same Saturday that the Easter holidays start in the UK. Maybe that's why a lot of people are coming to visit the UAE at that time. Probably it's going to be a busy couple of weeks, those first 2 weeks in April. Anyway, so then it ends on May the 2nd, and that is when there is another religious festival. The first Eid will fall in that May, and that is a public holiday here in the UAE. So I'm going to start by talking a little bit about what you can expect if you're a tourist. Maybe you're trying to tick off a lot of tourist destinations and you're worried if your plans might be affected. So as a rule, when people ask me, should I visit the UAE during Ramadan, I tell them yes, because I don't think much of your holiday is going to be interrupted, and if anything, you're going to get a really interesting experience and another insight into another culture maybe that you don't know that much about. You know, if you're not Muslim and you've never visited the Middle East, then maybe you'll have a really, really nice, interesting perspective on this holy time of year. If you are planning a, let's say like a hen party or a girls' holiday or just a bit of a party holiday and you're worried about, you know, coming during Ramadan and not being able to go to any events, I also wouldn't really worry. Let's say it's your birthday on like the 4th of April and you want to come for your birthday and you want to have a big celebration. You don't have anything to worry about, in my opinion. The rules have been so that you are unable to have live music events, but when you're going to the beach clubs, when you're going to the clubs, when you're going to restaurants even, they'll still be playing music. It just won't be a live DJ or a live performer through the day. And then in the evening time, it's pretty much business as usual. In my experience, I've been here the past 4 years, like I said, and apparently even in those short 4 years, things have really, really changed. The biggest change that I've seen over the past few years is that the restaurants usually will cover completely with a big curtain. Like, it's really hard to explain it if you've never been, but all the restaurants or whatever will shut themselves down basically during the day. But I did notice last year they didn't do this, so I think, you know, it's progressively becoming less and less noticeable at all, which is really, really interesting. You know, I don't really have any comments on that. For me personally, it doesn't really affect me whatsoever, but I think it is interesting just for tourists to note. So if you're planning your girls' holiday or your lads' holiday, you're going to be fine. That's Mabel approved during Ramadan. The reason for this is because these, you know, party venues where they're serving alcohol, playing music, whatever, these are not venues where people are going to go who are observing Ramadan. You know, think about it with common sense. You know, of course, these are places that are going to be full of tourists. They're going to be full of expats. They're going to be full of people that, you know, want to still enjoy their kind of business as usual lives. It's public places where the rules are enforced. So what does that mean? It means public beaches, not private beaches in hotels and beach clubs, etc., but public beaches. It means malls. It means literally walking out on the streets. You shouldn't have your food and drink with you there. It's advised to be dressed respectfully, as it always is, but, you know, I think of this just as how, you know, you would kind of approach it if it was someone you knew, for example, that was, you know, having a religious festival and you're in their country. You should be respectful anyway, especially at this time of year. So I hope that makes a bit of sense and clears some things up in terms of kind of what can be done. If you would like more information about what to wear as a woman in the UAE, then please check out my other video. I'll link it there or there, and you can go and check it out. So now let's talk about Ramadan as an expat. Maybe some of you are watching this because you're gearing up to move to the UAE, and if that's you, then that's very exciting. Congratulations. So I have a really interesting perspective on Ramadan because I work in marketing. Now, it does seem weird to bring up kind of retail and business around a holy festival, but it's, you know, it can be compared to a time like Christmas in America, for example. You've got your Black Friday, you've got all the crazy present shopping. Ramadan in Dubai and in the UAE has definitely become a time for sales. It's become a time for discounts. Ramadan has become very commercial, and brands kind of tap into Iftar and Suhoor. They'll have sales through the evening, for example. And I think that's something quite interesting that people don't really expect at this time of year. Another kind of way you can get involved as an expat is by benefiting from Ramadan working hours. So typically businesses and, you know, companies will offer their employees shorter working hours during Ramadan because their employees might be fasting. So this is obviously really, really beneficial for those that are fasting, because can you imagine doing a full day's work without having eaten or even drank any water? That would just be so difficult, and you feel so low energy. So it's very normal for companies to offer their employees shorter working hours. This can sometimes apply for non-fasting employees as well. In my experience, it did not, but for example, my boyfriend Connor, he's a teacher. It's for the whole school. So it depends what industry you're in. With that in mind, think about it, you know, logically. If there's people working less hours, then less gets done. So if you're wanting any paperwork, or you're wanting, you know, kind of business deals to go through. I remember once I was trying to sign a lease on an apartment right in the middle of Ramadan. That can take a bit longer, so expect a bit of a longer turnaround on things, because a lot of people are fasting, working less, spending more time with family in the evenings. It's kind of a bit of a slow pace. But that being said, it does depend what industry you're in, because, you know, I've kind of had both sides of it where, you know, things do slow down, but at the same time at work things really ramp up, because we're doing sales, we're doing promotions, we're doing all sorts of activations. So it's kind of a mixed bag, but I'm just trying to give you kind of a bit of insight into all basis of Ramadan and what Ramadan has been like for an expat like me. If you are in the UAE during Ramadan, you know, my biggest tips would be to be respectful for people that could be fasting, whether it's your taxi driver, whether it's your, you know, delivery people, whether it's your hotel staff. If you're staying as a tourist, you know, just bear in mind that some of these people might not have eaten since 6 a.m. and, you know, they might be counting down the minutes until they can break their fast in the evening, which is usually around, the sun goes down at I think about 7 p.m. If it is around that time, it's really polite to, you know, offer water or a date. I know some people that will kind of keep them by the door for delivery people, you know, around that in the evening time, which I think is really nice, or maybe giving them to, you know, gas station attendants and things like that. So I think it's just kind of keeping that in your mind and keeping other people's experiences in your mind. You wouldn't do this in Dubai anyway. You wouldn't like go around swearing and drinking or whatever too much in public in Dubai anyway, but especially at this time of year, I think just be really mindful. And I would say get yourself on down to an Iftar and experience a kind of traditional Middle Eastern Iftar. It's a really nice experience to have. Middle Eastern food is incredible, so I would definitely recommend doing that. There's a nice kind of, well, they did this last year, I'm sure they'll do it again. It's called the Ramadan Garden at the Habtoor Hotel, and it's got all like twinkly lights, and, you know, you kind of sit in this like traditional seating, and you can have Middle Eastern food and Moroccan tea and things like that, and it's really, really nice. That concludes my video. I hope that's been a bit insightful. Overall, if you take one thing from this video, just take that Ramadan is nothing to be scared of if you're a tourist. Like, don't worry about it. You know, you'll be fine. You'll still have an amazing time, and it can be really, really interesting and insightful. So if you're looking for more UAE type content, then you're in the right place. Make sure you've subscribed to my channel. If you're new here, I do have weekly vlogs that go up on a Thursday, and there's also a whole other bunch of content all about moving to the UAE, and I really, really hope you find it helpful. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye guys.